Recording in progress.
Welcome into the latest episode of Betting the Pitch. This is the Champions League round of 16 knockout edition. I'm your host, Real_G Warner, across all social media platforms. You can find me on YouTube at the Real_G Warner, on Instagram for 1 minute ultimate best bet reels at the Real_G Warner. Also on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify under the Betting the Pitch podcast. I also need to make sure that I tweet out that I am live, which I was meaning to do. Let's hope I do this right. And let's get into it. So I'm going to go through both Tuesday and Wednesday of the Champions League. I will then do my best to not only get through that, but also to come out with an ultimate best bet and hopefully a winning best bet end of show. We're 35-12, 75% year to date. And I'm just going to queue up one more tweet. So any of you that are following the, I guess my podcast handle, as opposed to at the Real_G Warner on YouTube, we are at the pitch betting because someone somehow already took betting the pitch before I could grab it, unfortunately. But regardless, that's what we're doing on this episode. We're going to find some winners and let some people get in here in case you want to join live, or of course you can watch the recorded version on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere you get your podcasts is where I'm trying to be. So if I'm not somewhere, please tell me and I'll try to make that happen. But of course, thank you for all the support, and let's see if I can get this started. And let's go to where the money is. Well, actually, it's everywhere because Champions League is one of the richest competitions in the world. So we'll start with Club Brugge. They are hosting Aston Villa. So all these, I guess the background for Champions League knockouts, these are two-legged ties. You switch home field. The lower seeds that were, I guess, playing in the previous round, they should be the home team in the first leg. Second leg to the seeded teams, as it's called, in this year's Champions League. But in that first matchup, we have Bruges fresh off eliminating Atalanta out of Serie A in Italy. Certainly a big upset. Not a lot of were expecting it. I don't know that I need to necessarily go through how the teams got here, but maybe just an idea of kind of who they played against and what that looked like. Certainly was an upset, but Bruges were an underdog both legs and won both legs. So maybe they didn't deserve to be, though they did certainly get very helped. Or there was a lot of, I think, drama surrounding a late penalty given to Bruges in the first leg, and but they ultimately took an advantage to Bergamo, Italy, and then only increased that. So good for them. They're a quarter goal underdog at home to Aston Villa. Totals 2.5 in this one, juiced all the way to under. I will also say the two advanced numbers we have those at BetOnline. If you're not a member of BetOnline or Sportsbetting.ag, please slide in my DMs at the Real_G Warner across any social media platform, and I'll get you a fresh link to get some free money. And it's important because this is some of the best juice you can get out there of any online sports book. I think BetOnline is a place you want to be. With that said, so Bruges, quarter goal underdogs at home with all the juice. I'm pretty interested in them just because I feel like they're a Belgian side that will never be looked at on an equal level to the English Premier League. They probably shouldn't be because of the seismic gap in valuation and ability to spend. But Bruges have been great. They did really well in the Champions League 2 seasons ago, did not qualify for it last year because I think they wasted and used a lot of energy in their Champions League run into the knockouts after, I think, winning their group back when we had groups and not league play. But I think there's some value to a Bruges side that are talented. They did sell some players, as a few of these Champions League, even advancers from the last round did from the lower leagues. That is one thing you have to deal with. And then when you sell players like your striker, like Feyenoord did, to their actual opponent in Champions League in Milan, is that enough to keep you off of it? It shouldn't have been, because Feyenoord were able to advance. But along those lines, those are things to think about, I think, or at least consider. Skov Olsen was sold from Bruges to VfL Wolfsburg in the German Bundesliga. So, like, these clubs are not ready-made, fully made, are not in a position where they're going to be no one will outspend them, because clearly Aston Villa, who have completely rebuilt their team, added defenders that they needed, though we'll see about the ability of Axel Disasi. But also there's plenty more to discuss with Marcus Rashford coming in from a really disappointing end to his time at Manchester United. If it's actually over, we'll see. But anyway, Aston Villa, they've got a great manager in Unai Emery who got them to the Champions League from fighting relegation just a few seasons ago. They spent a lot of money, so that's how they got there. And Steven Gerrard was doing, I thought, fine, but then had a tough run and got replaced. But with that said, I think Aston Villa is a road favorite. I think there's reason to go against that. Ollie Watkins has been, I think, so-so, looked very good at the Euros this summer for England, but is always a permanent backup to Harry Kane, and then essentially lost his job to a player who's now in Saudi Arabia, I think, in Duran. So that's been a little bit inconsistent. Morgan Rogers, he's on my FPL Fantasy Premier League roster, has been the entire season. He plays every minute of every game, and that's eventually going to run out of steam. But would imagine Aston Villa puts their best out here. But as a road favorite, I'd have to lean to the home underdog. It's very juiced at the moment. I don't know that I'm completely off this if Bruges move to a pick'em, likely getting odds. And that's certainly one way to reduce the juice monster that is soccer betting, unfortunately, though BetOnline, Sportsbetting.ag certainly will help you to reduce that. I think my leans for now as a possibility for the ultimate best bet is definitely to the home underdog. And I lean to under 2.5 because I think we're going to see some really tight matches. The hard part is when goals start going in, then they really start to flow because everyone is so worried about elimination. But first legs of these competitions should be low scoring because you don't want to play yourself out of a tie going too aggressive and conceding goals. And I think that's going to lead to more unders than it will to overs over the long run. And that's kind of been my strategy. Champions League has certainly treated me a lot better this season and really over my soccer betting career than a lot of the domestic leagues have. And so that's, I think, where I'll land on this one. As for the two advanced numbers, so the issue with Bruce, they're plus 215, so $100 US will win you 215. Aston Villa minus 270 other way, so you have to lay 270 to win 100. The problem that if you're backing Bruges, which it worked in the first leg, they won at home the first leg and then won the second leg at home at Atalanta. But it's just really tough when you have to go away from home. Yes, if you're in a penalty shootout after a second leg and 30 minutes of extra time and you go to that penalty shootout, I mean, getting to over 2-1 odds, you're certainly a plus EV or positive expected value bet. The problem is that there's a long way to get there. And if you don't really win their first leg, then you're kind of in trouble for leg two because you're going to be away from home. And it's just a lot's going to be the odds will be stacked against you, put it that way. But with that said, Bruges were able to escape that same situation. We're fortunate to win late at home, but I don't know that necessarily changed the outcome of the second leg because they jumped on Atalanta early. Yes, they had to push for a goal and maybe were a little bit more aggressive, but Atalanta have always been that way. And I think Aston Villa will probably take, though they shouldn't, they will probably take a Belgian side lightly because that's what the English media does. That's what English people that I hear speak. So I don't know if it's all of England. But the complex that England has, or just the inability, the lack of respect for really anyone outside of England, probably even in England, just drives me insane. But it does make it very profitable to bet against the English clubs that are always overvalued. I would expect that while Club Brugge are very juiced right now at the quarter of a goal underdog, I don't really see a reason to jump into it. I usually wait till lineups an hour before a match anyway. But I think there's a lot of value potentially in waiting for some UK money to come in because it's usually not the smartest. And I feel like it's then the best way to profit is to wait for England money to bet English teams and then bet the other side. So I'll lean to the quarter of a goal. I'll lean to under 2.5, and I'll lean to Bruges plus 215 to advance. We'll move next to the big window of matches on Tuesday that starts with Borussia Dortmund, as I am wearing I don't even know what I got. I got it from the team shop before I went to their match a couple years ago. Really need to get back into the European traveling, but the U.S. economy certainly is not helping in that regard. Though apparently crypto gains are no longer taxable. So, oh my gosh, I don't know how that happened, but I guess that's good for you and the rest of us that are in the crypto game. But we'll move to Borussia Dortmund, as I already mentioned, 3/4 goal favorites at home with all the juice to Lille of France's Ligue 1. Totals 2 3/4, juice all the way to under. And Borussia Dortmund are coming off a big win this weekend on the road at St. Pauli. Until you look to actually what the problem St. Pauli have. They can't score goals. They score even fewer of can't score goals at home. And Borussia Dortmund were able to take a lead You could argue that they kind of bundled the ball in over the net, got a shot blocked, and then it fell right to their striker, which Serhou Guirassy is the best goal scorer maybe in the world. He's awesome, has done it for Stuttgart, has done it for a Dortmund team that have not been performing and still scores and bags goals regularly. I think the second goal they got was off of a set piece or a corner kick from St. Pauli when they were trying to equalize. And then Dortmund literally shut off the match. Niko Kovac, their new manager, has only been in the hot seat for a little while. But honestly, if they're going to play, take leads, and then sit on the games, I think unders are a really good value play for Borussia Dortmund. As I already mentioned, I like unders in this round because I feel like all these teams are trying to not give up too many goals to lose out. Borussia Dortmund will be on the road for the second leg, having to advance in the first knockouts with two, I guess, results against Sporting Lisboa, who are the only other team playing worse in Champions League, I got to say, that did advance. Lille on their side, they had an incredible start to the season, got seeded in Champions League, which was not expected as no one respects French clubs at all, which they should change, but I'm not going to try to force anybody, and the dumb English money is part of that. They called it a farmers league most famously a few seasons ago. I think Lille have not been able to keep up at that same level, which is hard because they were winning every match they played. So you can't really do that. But they did have a little bit of a lull, then played PSG this weekend. So there's a good chance that they're looked on pretty negatively here. And it feels like with the price where it is, Dortmund potentially moving to a 1-goal favorite certainly makes me want to back the underdog here. So very interested in Lille getting 3/4 of a goal currently, but I will wait until kickoff or something around then until we see lineups. I expect one to be available, and I'm very interested in it, though fighting the yellow wall is certainly scary. And I lean to under 2 3/4 because I do think we see a conservative effort. Dortmund at 2-0 are probably going to go in that same defensive shell like they were against St. Pauli, which will invite Lille on to potentially score that goal that could get you to 2-1. That would push the +1. You likely lose to under 2 3/4, but in that scenario, you're probably just trying to escape with any sort of thing. But I do think Lille going into Borussia Dortmund and going into Western Germany is not impossible. So I like underdog there. Probably surprising to none who listen to this podcast regularly, but thank you for your patronage, your support, and please hit a 5-star review with a comment on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, as it's huge for the search rankings. In terms of two advanced numbers, Borussia Dortmund -153, Lille +125. Hello, handles. But ultimately, so Lille have the second leg at home. And I do love seeing a plus money underdog when they are able to essentially just hold serve. That's all you got to do, Lille. Hold serve and get a result. If you win away, that'd be incredible, but just draw, and then you will be a pretty sizable favorite, I think, at home if they are not behind. Certainly could lose that second leg, but I think you'll be in great position, plus EV, of course, at that point. But we'll see, I guess, what happens the first leg. Hard to project that all the way. But again, lean the underdog this time away. Still lean under and lean to the underdog, who will have plus money on a second leg at home, just hoping for a first leg result. Moving next to Real Madrid hosting Atletico Madrid. And what's super lame is seeing all these teams from the same countries having to play each other, because it happened over and over and over again, it feels. But Real Madrid, half a goal favorites right now, a little bit more juice, totals 2.5, juice more to the under slightly. Real Madrid, I mean, they have no defenders. David Alaba is, I mean, we'll see. He's trying to get back to full strength on the pitch, and that's not going to work. We saw a terrible penalty conceded by Antonio Rudiger this weekend on the road at Real Betis in a loss when Real Madrid could have gone back to the top of the La Liga table. They, to me, are not impressive at all. I have not felt that Kylian Mbappe had any sort of success so far this season. Certainly has been playing better lately, but hard to play as bad as he did to start the season with the expectations he had. Atletico Madrid also, they're like the best team in La Liga. They might be the best team in the world. They did a ton of investing in their club. It took them a little while to gel, but they've been playing very well lately. And honestly, going to Real Madrid, going to the Bernabeu, it's a really tough place to play. It's not been so tough lately. And it's honestly not like, I think Atleti are better. I think that they should be, I don't know that you can make them smaller than a half a goal underdog here, to be frank, but I love that side. I lean, I think, more to the half of a goal than I like under 2.5. But I think we see Atleti, especially if they take a lead, they're going to kill this game as quickly as they can and try to probably kill the second leg at the Wanda Metropolitano as well. Now sponsored by some oil money country. But I think Real Madrid, they really need to figure out who they are, what they're going to do with this back line. That does certainly concern under a little bit, but I think the Atleti style was certainly to score more goals this season. They're still managed by Diego Simeone. His son has been awesome, by the way. Any nepotism, throw that out because he's been great. And I got to say, I really like the idea. I mean, I'm on Atleti to advance in the Copa del Rey against Barcelona. Amazing that they're playing Real Madrid here too. And there is some concern about a fixture overload, but they've handled it. I thought didn't have a very good first half at home this weekend against Athletic Club Bilbao, but responded to it, got what they needed to in the second half with what looks like a really deep roster. And honestly, Angelito Correa is one of the best goal scorers that's out there. And I really like what I've seen from him. I don't like what I've seen from Real Madrid. Maybe they respond here, but I think a second leg at home, it's going to be really hard for me to avoid an Atletico Madrid play here. In terms of their two advanced number, plus 147, even bigger underdog than Lille. Real Madrid have been awesome in this competition, but all good things come to an end, and I think it might end here. Atleti, the seeded team, of course. Real Madrid having to play that first two-legged tie with Man City might have robbed them of more players, and honestly, I think the underdog's got a ton of value here. And we'll go to the last. We'll go to PSV Eindhoven, half of a goal underdog to Arsenal. All the juice on PSV, totals 2.5, juice all the way to under. And that, I think, reflects the goal struggles that Arsenal have had. Goalless draw midweek with Nottingham Forest. And honestly, on the road, sure, but like there's no striker. Mikel Arteta deserves a lot of blame for not rotating at all. You could blame the squad, but he's the manager. He's got to do the best that he can with it. They didn't add anyone in the winter, and they're playing has-beens. Raheem Sterling, I hope, starts, or Mikel Merino, a center, like arguably defensive midfielder, maybe center mid, not a central attacking midfielder, but starting him at striker because he scored 2 goals off of a bench when they were desperate against like a bottom feeder Premier League promoted side that's going straight back down, and Leicester City is hilarious. And I think that speaks to kind of where Arsenal is right now, or Arsenal are right now. So any number that they're a favorite away from home, I don't know how I can look past PSV. Especially in front of a great Dutch Eredivisie crowd, which has been, I think, a big reason why the Eredivisie is potentially so far in this competition. They're getting more teams into these bigger Champions League slots because they've performed really well in Europe. And I think there's another similar thing to what I've talked about with France, is that there's just a lot of disrespect for the ability of Dutch sides, and especially at home, especially in the cauldron that'll exist. I do feel like there's probably a little less interest again for me on under here of 2.5, but I do think that a 1-0 PSV win is a very likely result here, and that hits both underdog and under. And I just want to be against Arsenal, so I'll lean under 2.5 there. I'll lean to the half of a goal, and the complication about the 2 advanced number, which I'll get to in 1 second, is that the second leg is at Arsenal. That's going to be a really, really tough place to play and potentially hold on to a lead or overturn a deficit. Eindhoven currently plus 330 to advance. That's a big, big number, which does make me feel like if you're expecting this 25% of the time, it's probably worth throwing a sprinkling on a PSV to advance number. If they win this first leg going away or have a sizable advantage, I mean, so be it. Get to penalty kicks. It's really a coin flip, even on the road in North London. Man, there's a lot of dogs that are potentially going to bark on this Tuesday card. And for my ultimate best bet, I'm going to go. It's hard for me to choose right now between Atletico Madrid, honestly, and the PSV Eindhoven, because I think there are huge flaws in the favorites here. The difference, I think, is that Arsenal are a road favorite. So I'll go Eindhoven plus 1/2 of a goal is my best bet on Tuesday, potentially to be smashed against the Wednesday best bet. And we'll come out of here with an ultimate best bet for this episode. Before I get to the Wednesday card, if you haven't joined my Patreon, you should do it. I've had a lot of signups lately, especially getting ready for March Madness. Still trying to figure out, and certainly will accept requests, whether in my DMs at the real_G Warren across Instagram, Patreon, YouTube, Twitter, of course, anywhere you want. Send me some ideas, because I'd love to do more. We'll do any pools that are available. Please invite me. It was really easy money last year when I had like one of the best brackets I've ever made, but I picked Kentucky to win the whole thing. So didn't even get a single win from my champion. Got Key or whatever with his 10 threes and no hairline. That was brutal. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. But I'm certainly subscribed to the don't pick the champion everyone is picking, but we'll go way deep, more in depth, and try to win you some money, as I try to do that every season, especially for my Patreon subscribers. Thank you to all of you that have come through. Jed Ronalds, thanks for signing up again, coming back with me. I appreciate that, and your loyalty support is certainly very much appreciated. Let's see. Am I forgetting anybody else? I know I got another couple YouTube subscribers as well, but I don't think I have that on this phone. So I'm going to continue and get back into the the Wednesday card, because I just finished Tuesday. So we'll go back or we'll start in the early window on Wednesday. We have Feyenoord, a 1-goal underdog at home to Inter Milan. Totals 2.75. Juice more to the under. Jed Ronalds, thank you for coming back to support the team on Patreon, patreon.com/real_G Warner. So Inter this weekend, they took a lead and then shut everything off, shut off the water, shut off trying to even get out of their own box, and said, Napoli, we dare you to beat us. And Napoli were knocking on the door forever, finally got a goal, nearly scored again to win late. Under and underdog both hit. That was a huge start to Saturday, and then had a really good college basketball night. So going to try to keep that momentum alive. The difference here, and honestly, that did raise a lot of problems, concerns for Inter, because they played in Coppa Italia midweek. They are in Champions League now. They are really struggling with health, and I think that is something that is really hard to overcome. Finally, on the other side, they played a Milan side who have been a shell of itself, that have been really struggling, and knocked off a team they literally sold their striker to, which is pretty incredible. And by the way, any of you who are live and want to throw some questions in here, feel free. I do have the comments open. I'm just trying to make sure I see them. In terms of the total here, we got 2.75, just a little bit more to under. Feyenoord a slight, 1-goal underdog, but slightly more juice on the Inter side. And to advanced number, we got Feyenoord 5.5 to 1. Inter minus 825. So you got to put up $825 to win 100 on Inter. Can't say there's some value there. I think Inter are still the best team in Italy for me, but it doesn't seem to be as big of a gap as it has been in the past. Feyenoord, though, are just kind of a shell of what they were even in Champions League with Santi Jimenez sold. They did kind of replenish some, but still are not really in the same league as Inter. But the difference is Inter, they had Çalhanoğlu limp off in this weekend in a big battle for the Scudetto, which they had held on to their lead. They would have been 4 points ahead of Napoli and having beaten them on the road. But that was a huge goal to concede late. They did survive and get a draw on the road at one of their biggest Scudetto challengers, which isn't so bad, but there's a lot of work to do. Inter also have Milan in the Coppa Italia, so 2 legs in Italy. So there's a lot left, and Champions League still is very important to Inter. But at this point, I think that they need to start thinking about their health, and they can't play Denzel Dumfries every play. I think even more importantly, besides Çalhanoğlu, was Federica Di Marco also limping off, which that's one of their best goal scoring game changers, all those sort of things. So I think there's a lot of problems there. And as 1-goal favorites, that's asking a lot. I think Inter are likely to play a similar strategy, maybe a little bit more aggressive than it was against Napoli. But if they take a 1-goal lead, I think they will be very conservative. That makes the +1 seem interesting on Feyenoord, but also under 2.75, I think, to look at, like, it has a lot of value. I just don't necessarily see Feyenoord of being able to beat Inter. So I don't really think the 2 advanced number, though it's certainly, we're basically looking for a 10% chance. If you think you got one, it might be worth stepping in there. Or maybe let's see, 13, 14%, something like that. I think it's a low probability event that Inter are eliminated, but I do think that they're going to potentially struggle here, and that makes an underdog and under worth looking into. To the big window, the big slate on Wednesday, we'll start with Bayern München hosting Bayer Leverkusen. And this is another just rematch of domestic clubs, which is really disappointing. And honestly, next, Benfica and Barcelona, they played in the group stage or league phase, and that's disappointing too. But anyway, so Bayern, 3/4 goal favorites at home for this first leg, coming off a very skin of their teeth advance late with a deflection on a clearance into their own net. Amazing, but I guess it did count for Alphonso Davies. But Bayern, 3/4 goal favorites to a Leverkusen side that they weren't able to beat in either of their two meetings this year. Bayern are going to win the Meisterschale. Scudetto's Italian, sorry. The Meisterschale, they're going to get back their title-winning ways after 12 years, finally lost one. Now they're back. But this is going to be a really tough environment situation. Bayer Leverkusen have said that they were preparing for Champions League knockout rounds away by trying to stall games like their first matchup that they went on the road to Munich. It worked out well. They also eliminated Bayern Munich out of the DFB Pokal, which was a huge step earlier in the competition. Manuel Neuer got a red card early, but I don't really know that changes anything because Bayern are 0-3 beating Leverkusen in their matchups. Now we have Champions League, which might be the place for Leverkusen to get revenge for losing the title this season. But I got to say, there is a lot of me that likes Leverkusen, though I think they are flawed. They certainly were super lucky with their results last season and winning and going undefeated an entire season until the Europa League final, which is a nice winner best bet on Atalanta for me in that one. Regardless, I think there's a lot here. I think Leverkusen, they could lose this first leg, but I don't think a 1-goal loss is that bad. It would take half your unit, the current 3/4 goal underdog, which would be disappointing because we want to win everything. But I think we see Leverkusen really nullifying Bayern München in this first road matchup in the Champions League. And then they get to come home and advance there. So I'll lean to Leverkusen getting a 3/4 goal. It's really hard, but I do like under 2 3/4 because I think that goes along with this being just a nothing game, and Leverkusen will do everything they can to stop Bayern and fill gaps and do everything they can like they have shown already. And a 2 advanced number, Leverkusen plus 135. So that puts them a little bit more likely to advance than Atletico Madrid against Real Madrid, but less likely than Lille to Borussia Dortmund. And honestly, second leg at home, we haven't seen Bayern beat them at all this entire season. I really like that scenario. I like that plus 135 on Leverkusen to advance. Move next to Benfica hosting Barcelona. Currently Benfica 0.5 goal underdog at home. All the juice on Barca. Total is 3.5. Juice all the way to under. Benfica, we saw them collapse from many leading positions against Barcelona in their up and down tie in the league phase. Totals at 3.5. We haven't seen anything above 3 or even at 3 in this entire discussion so far. So biggest total on the board. Generally think that's a sign that over's coming. But honestly, if you're expecting a reversal and that Barca to play defensively, I can't really see it. I can't really explain it, but that certainly would be the less popular side. And you've got any total above 3, I think is destined, or there's value on under, in my humble opinion. So I'm pretty intrigued by Benfica's home underdog because I just want to be against the Barcelona high line, as I don't think it's good against good teams. And we've seen it go and start the year off really well in La Liga, and that's really deteriorated since. We also saw them fall 2 behind in the first 10 minutes to Atletico Madrid and Copa del Rey, take a 4-2 lead, and then give up 2 goals in a row to equalize and draw 4-4. I think any under lean is out the window. There's an over lean for you, Joe Dollar, longtime Patreon subscriber who just wants me to bet overs and favorites, I think. But I don't think I'll ever be able to do that. Sorry, Joe. I think Benfica's the side is my only interest here. The 2 advanced number plus 360 to Barcelona 1-5. So you have to bet $5 to win 1 for Barcelona to move through. I think that's probably more of interest to me than the total, to say the least. So it's certainly gigantic at 3.5. But I don't know that Benfica, they certainly have shown offense this year that they'll need it against Barca. I think the hard part is going away from home second leg and surviving, because Barca can really make mincemeat out of a lot of defenses. Last but not least, we'll go to PSG Liverpool, and then we'll come back with an ultimate best bet as promised to try to improve on that 35-12, 75% record. PSG currently quarter goal favorites now at home to Liverpool. All the juice on Liverpool right now, total is 3, juice all the way to over. So I saw this pick 'em, I think, when I was first looking at numbers, and now we've seen the market bet PSG to favorite. I'm surprised because I was hoping to get PSG as a home underdog. So we'll see if the number flips. It usually doesn't do that in soccer, I will say. But you never know. You never know, especially like we've talked about earlier on the show. If you didn't see it live, feel free to scroll back or rewind or whatever is available. Everyone bets the UK teams. It's a lot of English money that comes in on this, and expect for Liverpool to get that. So I'll be waiting to see if PSG move back to an underdog. I still think they're very talented. And I think Liverpool are overvalued based on how dominant they've been in the Premier League, because the rest of the English Premier League is trash, it seems. And the total 3, all the way juiced to over, does feel like a high scoring potential here with two teams with great offenses. But I think a lot of times the great offenses go against each other. There's usually a lot, especially in the Champions League and cup tie competitions. I think there's a lot less goal mouth action than you'd expect, because both of these teams usually just face teams that are going to let them have the ball and just try to make sure they're defending. And that's just really not the way to do it, I don't think, in European soccer, or at least on this level. At this point, I guess I got to lean to Liverpool as a quarter goal underdog away. The Parc des Princes have been a really tough place to enter for road teams in Ligue 1. But there's obviously a big divide between Fenway Sports Group and all the money they put into the Red Sox that is then filtered over to Liverpool. I do think that there's also some value in going against the Liverpool over idea, because Arne Slot honestly is a possession guy that's going to try to keep the ball, which is exactly what PSG want in Luis Enrique as well. So currently plus money on under 3. I'll probably wait to see over money hit on match day and see this tick to 3.25. But I guess I lean to Liverpool as a quarter goal underdog and to under potentially 3.25, but the current 3. Now the 2 advanced number, that's very interesting. PSG plus 150 underdogs, minus 185. Liverpool 185 to win 100. 100 wins 150 on PSG, and that's because second leg at Anfield. And I don't think I want much to do with that with the PSG side. So I will probably avoid that portion, as I do respect Liverpool at home. And I think they can kind of overturn any deficit that's needed. But I do think PSG as a home favorite does look a little bit surprising to me. And I'm going to wait and see if they move to an underdog before kickoff. So that does it for this episode. But hang on for the ultimate best bet. I also got to nominate my Wednesday pick, get my phone out and ready as well. Which is telling me I'm spending 16 hours on my phone a day, which I don't think is possible, but that's what it's saying. Want to also plug, Big East Ben and I did a college basketball episode, our second to last penultimate of the regular season, of course, with conference tournaments starting next week and March Madness just 2 weeks away. I can't wait. It's best time of the year. With that said, you should probably check out my Patreon, patreon.com/real_G Warner, the best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups across all sports, get everything overnight, get everything when I lock things in, download the application, get notifications, turn them on, and you will literally get a buzz every time I lock something in, so you get the same price I do. You don't lose on something that has a last-minute buzzer beater or something of that nature, or make sure you get the good soccer numbers as well with the best juices before they move. So go check that out, patreon.com/real_G Warner. Pregame Now has the podcast, twitter.com/pregame now with Big East Ben and I went through 5 big games on Tuesday night in college basketball, and of course gave out best bets. I'm crushing it. I think I'm 14-8 so far, making a best bet every episode of the season. That's 64 or something like that %. Let me do that math right now so I can make sure I'm right on it. But yeah, it's been good, and we're trying to keep that going. Yeah, 63.6%. So I do love rounding when we can go rounding in the up direction. And I think it's probably time to get into ultimate best bet now. I don't think I have any reason to skip or to do anything else. So let's make sure I got this all aligned. Make sure I know what I need to plug, which I think I've already done. Want to thank new YouTube subscriber. That's what I was trying to do here. Let's see if I can find that. Hopefully, very, very quickly. You can find me on YouTube at @real_G Warner. That's where you get this 1 minute YouTube short, which will tell you exactly who I'm picking for the ultimate best bet portion of the show. Want to thank to Robbie W, most recent YouTube subscriber. Let's see if I can find anyone else more recent. Nope. Looks like Big Protein. I haven't seen you in a while. I've missed you on the live streams, brother. But thank you for support, Robbie W as well. And of course, Jed Ronalds coming back into Patreon, patreon.com/real_G Warner in case you want some more action. Okay. I keep clicking away from this because my computer does the touchscreen when I don't expect it, it seems. It's time for the ultimate best bet, so let's do it. Hey, this is the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet portion of Betting the Pitch, the Champions League edition. We're 35-12, 75% so far this season. Going to try to keep that record alive. On Tuesday in Champions League, I like PSV Eindhoven, a half of a goal underdog. And on Wednesday, I like Bayer Leverkusen, a 3/4 of a goal underdog on the road at Bayern Munchen. But for the ultimate best bet on this episode, and while you're here for ultimate best bets, 35-12, 75% year to date, you should also check out my Patreon, patreon.com. So it's a real_G Warner to get all my picks, plays, everything across all sports, including March Madness with a big college basketball run, especially a huge Saturday, trying to keep that momentum alive. But for the ultimate best bet, 35-12, 75% on this Champions League episode, I'm going to go with Bayer Leverkusen's 3/4 goal underdog on the road at Bayern. Have already played 3 times this year, have 1 and 2 draws, so undefeated so far. I don't see Bayern winning this match, and I'll play Leverkusen a 3/4 goal underdog. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you on the next whatever podcast I'm doing, probably Wednesday night for the Thursday Europa League schedule, the Europa Conference League potentially. That's probably not going to be interesting to anybody, but we'll see. And thanks for the support. As always, hit me at the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, YouTube, whatever. If you want to throw something my way, ideas, questions, pools for me to join. If you want to do contests against me, that's cool too. And let's look forward to a huge week of Champions League and a huge finish, climax even, to the college basketball season.
Recording stopped.